Hello, everyone. Kim Victoria here, and my tabletop is looking very pink, isn't it? So, we're a couple weeks out from Valentine's Day, and so it was just time to play around with a Valentine idea or two. So, I bought last year a whole stack of Valentine themed paper bags. And I made something with it last year, and that one sold. So I thought I would try something different this year because I have all these. So I experimented first by playing with just a common bag, and I had this idea. Went into my paper stash and I found that I had a lot of themed, shall we say, scrapbook papers and other papers, and I have quite a nice stash of Valentine or love themed things. So I came up with this, and I did a Japanese binding on it so that I could use single sheets. And I put some fun things in here and played around. And so in this tutorial, this is a full tutorial, I'm going to show you how I made this paper bag Valentine mini journal. So let's get started. So my first thoughts around making a paper bag Japanese binding little journal was it was because I was thinking how long this is, and I was thinking about, well, do I want to fold paper? Then how am I going to bind it? And that's when the Japanese binding came in. I've seen demos of this, so I thought, hey, I want to try that. Um, and I will put the link in the description box of the videos that I watched to learn how to do it. And I'll show you my tools and have a couple of recommendations. So I went into my stash and I was thinking, well, do I want to use just printer paper or do I want to get a little fancier? Well, I have quite a lot of scrapbook paper in some really neat designs. So I decided that I would just do something with that. And scrapbook paper is 12 by 12. And these particular paper bags are 4.5 by 9. So I'm thinking, well, I don't think I want to make it this long, but you could. So that's something to think about. I also thought, well, I think I'll make it just a little bit narrower than the 4.5. So I cut out pieces at 4.25. And I also was thinking, oh, I could economize and I could get like maybe on some of these decorative pieces, I could get 3 pieces that were this size off a 12 by 12. So I went with 4.25 by 7.5 because I realized with the Japanese binding, there's going to be an inch at your bound edge that won't be usable. So you want to have it a little bit long. Um, it was just something to think about. So the bags are actually a little long, being 9 inches, but I didn't want to cut them off right away because I was thinking, well, what if I want to fold it and all of that sort of thing. So the first thing to do, and that's when I was using just a piece of normal bag, if I fold that in half and glue that down, that gives me a very strong kind of end from which to do the binding. And then would it work for me to fold it over from there? Because when you have Japanese binding, there's this section that you can't use. So I'll show you really quick on this. This has to fold over. In order for things to be flat, you have to be able to fold this over. So you lose all of this space. And then what I did was I folded each page after the whole thing was made so that, again, we would have this flat writing surface. And I'll go over that at the end. So I was thinking about length and thinking about single sheets. So that's what I came up with. So this is mostly scrapbook paper. I do have some sketch pad paper. I wanted again to use something a little heavier, and this is an inexpensive sketch pad. So that was easy for me to cut this to size. So that was a little extra, and it could be fatter. It could be a lot fatter. I'll go over that when we get to the binding though, because that can be a little tricky too. So anyway, I have all of these ready to go. I just cut them out all 4.25 to 7.5, except for this. I left this at, I believe it was 10 inches and folded it over at the 2.5. So there's no, I wanted to do these all separately, so there's no cutting on either direction. Just, it's all ready to go. So I'm going to set that aside for the moment. Let's address the bag. So the bottom bag, I'm going to leave it as a pocket. So I'm going to be, let's just go ahead and start doing some of these things. So the bottom part of the bag is going to be a pocket. So let's just go ahead and that can start setting up. So that's the back cover. Front cover, we want to fold the bottom back on itself. So you're folding that base layer in half. And we want to glue that shut, completely shut. A little extra glue on the edges there. We want to make sure that is nice and firm. So really hold it down and make sure it's glued shut. So this is our front cover. So let's see, my next consideration was decorating the front and what I wanted to do with the pocket. So as you can see, I made a little flap. So that was a little bit more on the tricky side because I don't want to cut off the whole thing. So now that I know that my paper is 7.5, what I want to do, I'd like to have a 1-inch flap on this. So I am measuring it at 8.5. All right. So I do not, no, I don't think I did that quite right. Let's double check. I want to make sure I do this right now on the first. Oh, I went to 8 inches on this one. Okay. There we go. That's why it's off. It's always good to make a prototype, and it's always good to, let's see, as carpenters say, measure twice or thrice and cut once. Saves a lot of headaches, right? Okay, so this part's going to get cut off. So I need to do that a couple of different ways. There's a couple of different ways. I'm just going to use scissors. And I'm going to start out. Yeah. So I'm just going to start out by cutting down from the top, but only going as far as the little line that I have drawn. And I'm going to cut this, come on, also on the other end, but just to the point of that line. And I already did this experiment on the other one, so we know this, I know this works. I tried doing this a little differently, but this wound up being the very neatest, cleanest way to do it. Then what we want to do is give it just a little bit of a taper, a little miter, and that's because it's going to fold over. And now we need a little reinforcement here. So I have a lot of scrappy bits from all of this cutting out and making the inside pages. So I have a lot of options here. So this looks like a good piece to use. So I'm just going to cut off a chunk of that. And of course you can use your paper cutter or whatever. So I need a piece that is, I'm lining it up. I'm lining it up with this end, but in just a little teeny bit, right? Because that has to go inside. I'm not too worried about that right now. The main thing is I want to cut this and I want to taper those ends just a little bit because that is going to go inside, inside the bag. And that'll give it a little reinforcement too. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that. Yeah, this glue dries really fast, so you're always going to have just a little bit of trimming, but that's going to be fine. That's going to be just fine. All right, let's take off the extra. Thinking the edges will be good. We'll get to that. So double checking. Yeah, I got a little bit of overhang, and I wanted that in case I had some tabs, little tabs sticking out or something like that. So I'm good with that. A little overhang. So now I want to do something with the back. And what I did with the first one is I simply cut it down once I knew how long the front would be. There were only 2 of each of these patterns in that little pack of bags, so I want to be careful. All right, let's see. All right, so we've got that, we've got that. We're going to do the front. For this, so the first thing I want to do here is on the front cover, I want to know where the fold back's going to be. And it has to be where the base was on the bag, because you just can't fold it any closer than that. So I want to know where that fold is going to be, because that's how it's going to bind. So we don't want to put this decoration down there. We don't want it having to fold in. All right, so I want to put this on. I want to fold that in, and I want to have a couple of layers. So the way I got the right shape, so I made a layer and another layer, and the way I did that, I wanted to show you, is I took a piece of tracing paper, just any old scrappy bit of tracing paper that I had, and I outlined the heart shape in the middle of the doily. And if you want to be very accurate, you want to fold it in half and line up the 2 sides. And that's what's great about having some tracing paper around, because it is so handy. And then you cut the 2 sides at once and they will be mirror image. Then you can double check. Okay. And then what I did to make the interior heart shape, now I could make it this exact size as a layer, but I wanted to make it just a teensy bit smaller. So this is just whatever you'd like to do. I went ahead and I just trimmed off like oh golly, less than 1/8 of an inch. Just eyeballing it. And double checking again. And I'm satisfied with the shape. That's a good shape. But it's really hard to see. You know, now if I want to use that as a template, it's very hard to see. So what I did again is I just grabbed a marker. I mean, this is just scratch paper anyway. Just made sure I could see that edge. I mean, that little old piece of tracing paper just disappears. All right. Okay. There we go. So that I put on, whatever kind of paper you wanted to use. You can probably easier do it on this side. I'm not going to cut this one out, but then you can just trace around it. On the side that is going to get glued down, you won't even see it. But if I had just left that tracing paper plain, I wouldn't have been able to see the edges at all. So now I have something I can cut out. I'm not going to do that one because I already did this one. So that just leaves doing a little inking of the edges. Oh, and this is from one of a little scrap from this scrapbook paper, and I just fussy cut out the flower. I thought that was cute. So now I'll just ink some edges. And we are ready for glue ups. Oh, first I got to fold it. I want to find my position. This is going to go on the inside of the bag. So that's what it's going to look like. So this was, I remember now what I did. Um, Now that I have that fold, that's nice because it creates an anchor. I can hold that down and just go ahead and add my glue. This is going to get an extra layer of adhesive, so I can work pretty quickly and I don't have to get every little bit, which you will see in a moment. But we do want to get it glued down. Do need it to be anchored. So now, since I've been holding it down, it goes exactly where I want it. Yay! All right, so that just leaves this little bit on the inside. Now I can glue that down. Just make sure you don't glue this shut. We don't want that. This glue dries very fast. All right, so we are ready for our layers. There's our cover. Before we go on to assembly, I wanted to do one more thing. I've found that it's kind of nice with covers to give them just a little bit of waterproofing. So I'm going ahead and I'm going to use Mod Podge. I am not going to cover all sides. I'm just going to cover the front and the back of the back, not the inside. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Let's put some protective paper down. And it's really just a very light coat. This is my old scruffy, um, my little scruffy brush here for this. And it just needs to be a light coat and it dries really fast. So then you can move on to the next part of the operation, which is going to be the binding. And this does add an extra layer of glue for all these little holes in the doily. So this doily really gets anchored down. And if you missed any of those edges, this is a great time to get those edges anchored down. I want to make sure that I haven't glued the front cover to these flaps. So that's what I'm doing there. So now I'm going to do the back cover while this one dries, and that won't take very long at all. Okay, so next we just we've got our paper ready. We have our two cover parts ready. So we are ready to do the binding. And I'm going to put the link for the tutorial for the binding in the description. And yeah, that would be really, really good because I had to, I was learning too. So yeah, this is going pretty fast. So the main thing is that you've got all these parts and pieces, and then you're ready to put it all together. And we want this nicely lined up. I was mostly wanting my leading edge lined up well. And it is very useful to clip that. So lined up and centered. More clips, just a little bit at a time. Take your time, just like that measuring. You want to take your time, make sure everything is lined up. It's because everything is loose. Everything is loose. So you got to make sure that everything is aligned because it's so easy for it to get misaligned. All right. Now for the binding, I did make a little template, which you will see in the tutorial. And in the tutorial, she does it 1 inch away from the edge, and I made mine 3/4 of an inch away from the edge. And I just measured it to find where I wanted to put it. So this is 3/4 of an inch, this is 3/4 of an inch, and then these are an inch apart. And it worked great. So this is my template for this. Another clip. And what I used was I had some of this like baker's twine in pink. I have a variety of colors. So I have a needle ready. And in the tutorial, and you really do need this, you need 5 times the length of your spine. 2, 3, 4, 5, or a little more. And you will see why. So what I used, I don't have a Japanese tool, and I am going to get one if I'm going to do more of this, because what I do have is one of these hole punches you use with a hammer, and it has a little gap here so that the paper keeps going through. But I found it to take quite a bit of time and a lot of hammering to get through just this amount of paper. Now this is a heavier weight paper with the scrapbook paper in there, and then the multiple edges of the paper bag. So it's a little heavy duty. I might want to do something like this in sections. You know, as long as you're using the same template, you can do it in sections. But it did work with the first one, just holding it together and going through the whole thing. But I do recommend the tool, and she has a tutorial on how to choose your tool too. This worked, but I think this is better for single or just a few layers because it kind of took a lot of hammering. And I have a piece of wood that I hammer it on. So I'm going to go ahead and stab these holes because that takes a little time, and I will be back. So the smart thing to do with this kind of tool is to only do a few pages at a time. Just make sure your template's accurate and that you have everything lined up so that you're not it gets bound up going through this many pages. Even though this isn't very many, but it's just not designed to go through that many pages. So, but when you see the tutorial on Sea Lemon, you'll know what I'm talking about much better. She's got a really, really good, simple and fast tutorial. But I'll go through this really quick. You just find kind of a middle page, and you come up through, you know, you've got 4 holes, so come up from a middle part and up through one of the second holes. And you want to leave a nice long tail and bring it up towards the front. So about 5 inches, 4 inches, something like that. So then you're just basically weaving around, come up from the bottom and go into the next hole and around, and just make sure those are nice and straight. And I'm just holding it firm so it doesn't get slack on me. There we go. And then we're going around the side, the ends. And then we're going to finish this end. And around that side. Okay. So now you have everything there. Now the tricky part is that you're going to go through that hole, but you don't want to come out the top. You want to go through the same pages that you went through before. So go find that page. So there's our string, our thread. And this is a little bit on the tricky side. There we go. I've got my finger inside here so I can feel when the needle actually comes through on that side and into those pages. I think that was the trickiest part of, I mean, this binding is really simple. And she shows other patterned kinds of bindings. And then you want to tie a knot inside. And just to mention, normally these holes would be much closer to the fold place. I put them only 3/4 of an inch away, and the bag bottom formed this bigger amount. So I could have gone deeper. Um, just, you know, when you watch the her tutorial, it'll make a little bit more sense. I'm going kind of fast. And then you just cut off the excess. But you need this extra so that you can find the ends and tie the knot. So now the book is bound. We've got some medium on here holding everything tight. Now we're ready to embellish. But before I do that, I want to do all of this folding, one page at a time, and lining it up and going ahead and giving it a fold so that when it's all completed, it will lie flat. So just one page at a time. I have some pretty heavy paper in here. And then we're going to get to our embellishments. So I have those all ready to go. I made them so that it was kind of like creating this video would be a little bit faster rather than you watching all of my think time. I forgot to do something. Uh-oh. Well, I think I will just sneak that out. That was not my intention, so that was one of the little things I forgot to do. This was, I had this little extra piece with the hole in it, and I cut strips to cover that up. And I forgot to glue that down before the binding. Oh, well, it's going to disappear underneath there, and it'll be just fine. There we go. The boo-boo has disappeared. It happens. All right. Keep going. All right. Okay, so let me gather up the embellishments and we'll do that. So I'm all set up here to add the goodies that I did in the first one, in the first version of this. And I did it last. So what we have, I just really thought it would be fun to have all these pretty papers. And of course the edges could get inked You could do all kinds of things. But what I decided to do was have some flip outs. And here I am going with my paper clips again. I do like using paper clips when I'm thinking about stuff. So I was thinking, wouldn't this be fun? And so let's just go ahead and get busy with these, the glue up. So I want to make sure I don't get it on this part of it. And I aim the point to this corner. That just helps me think about positioning. And again, make sure there's no squeeze out over here, so I'm not gluing it down. Now, I imagine, and I am sure, that you're thinking about all kinds of ways that you could put something like this together, and really for just about any kind of theme. It doesn't have to be Valentine's. That's what I was working on, and I thought, well, this would be a fun thing to do. So this is a little fun flip out. And I'm putting a second one on this page. And I have a template for you for these. I'm going to put it in the Buy Me a Coffee shop, buymeacoffee.com. I'll put the link in the description box, and it's free. It's got quite a variety. I made quite a variety, and they're ones that you can print and cut out in many layers and more than one style. So there's a lot to play with there. And I have a little bit of, well, that's going to come up next. I'm going to do a double, kind of a two-parter on this one, because I want to also make a couple of cards with the templates. So you will see that in the next video. So there is that one. And these are the templates cut out. Well, that's this part. There's another page with some more in a different shape. Okay, and finally I had this one. And also in the stash, I found this little writing card. So I thought, well, that's cute. I think I'll add that in. And so this one I'm going to make as, I think I did that. I'm just going to leave it as a pocket as an option. And just to be on the safe side, I want to slide a piece of paper in there because I want to make sure I don't glue that flap down. I did not. Just a teeny little bit of squeeze out there. Good, good. All right. So now then, oh yeah. So there's a little, just a little fun thing. I did a few of these. I have this variety of punches, all found at a thrift store, different thrift stores. So they've been very handy for doing these kinds of layered things. You're going to see a couple more. Okay, so we've got that one. And on this page, let me double check here. I want to do it the same. I don't have to. Oh, yes. So this one, again, I've got like a little package of papers at one time in a thrift store, and there were these cute little envelopes. And what came with the envelope, there was just two of them, so they were perfect for this project, were little cards, and this was for a baby shower. So I was going like, oh, okay, well, I really like these, would like to use these for this. So I'll show you the first one in the flip through, but I couldn't find any leftovers from the various pages that that were really going to look good in here. So I decided to do a layering thing. So I cut a layer and I used my punches to create some different sized hearts. And this is a rub-on that I had somewhere else. So I'm going to create this kind of little thing, but let me ink it and ink the envelope. And we're going to put this all together. So here we go. And if you want to ink the inside of an envelope like this, I just insert a little piece of paper, hold this on an angle, and just swipe on it and move the paper. And you definitely are holding this on an angle. And this will give you that nice, fun edge. All right, let's carry on here. Okay, so this was just a fun little extra thing to tuck in. And we will revisit that. I'm going to make sure nothing is sticking where it shouldn't be sticking. That rub-on worked really well. And this card got changed to something a little more suitable for whoever will receive it. There we go. So this page, and just another little, but I don't want to put that in too much yet. I don't want it to get stuck in the glue. So let us go on. I didn't do anything with this page. They all have writing on the back, and most of them have lots of writing spots on the front. So there's that one. Now with this one, okay, with this one, put a little weight on there. I did something bigger. I thought I'd go ahead and go over what I did here. Now this little envelope fits really well in those. It was one of those old stationery packs, and it came with this really sweet stationery in it. So why not? Little hidden note. So again, what I want to do here is ink that inside edge. Want to hang on to it. And the other side. That works very well. And for this one, I wanted to cover. So let's go over covering this area. So what I do is leave just a little bit of a gap here, flip it over, and since it's all going to be glued down, it's perfectly okay to make a pencil line. But I'm going to use the cutter for this one. Now I want it ever so slightly inside that line. I don't want it right up to that line. I want to have a little bit of a margin around the edge. Same for this direction. Make sure it's okay. Yeah, see, there's just a little bit of a margin all the way around. So that's good. Now this is the tricky part. You're going to just take your time with this. We want to cut out this shape. So again, we want to do it on the back side, and we want the same distance from both edges. So let's just bring it in just, I'm looking at both edges and I have it sticking out ever so slightly. And that is what we want to cut off. You can tell the sun is going down. Getting dark in here. Let's see how I did. I think that will do just fine. Let me put a little ink around those edges. Now I'm only gluing a rectangle with some space. I'm leaving unglued space, and that gives it flexibility for getting in and out of the envelope. And I learned that, of course, from treasure books, Natasha on treasure books, and those are important little details. Okay. Now there's just a couple more little things. I have a pocket in back. Well, I've got the paper bags too, so we'll talk about that in a minute. But I decided I had all those scraps, so I might as well make a couple of extra things. This was a little scrap, and that was a little scrap. So I just made it so that it was like a little support tab, and just made that to fold over. We'll just glue that on. Just a little bit different treatment. That can pop in there. And I had a couple of these tags sitting around. This is some of the binding baker's twine. And I had a little piece of this kind of organza or whatever it's called, ribbon. And I thought, well, that would be fun. Something a little different. I'm always trying to look for something a little different, see what else I have in my stash that might be fun to play with. So I could leave it just loose like that. But I'm going to go ahead and do what I did on the other one, which is I took each one separately and I made it cut straight through in half and then in half and then kind of chopped off the excess. It's kind of pretty. All right. And of course, you could always put some weight on this and help to flatten it out. So let me tidy up here and we'll do a flip through. Now I have these two Valentine love themed journals, but now that I'm going through them and I'm looking at them, going like, I would like to do some more. I don't want to leave them the way they are. I want to add to them. So there is going to be a part two to this particular project. And I want to do the Valentine's cards because I got a couple of new ideas to play with. So let's just take a quick peek here at these the way they are, because you could be getting started on something and creating your own version of this, right? So it's a very simple sort of thing, really, but I love the versatility of being able to use single sheets of paper. I know I'm going to do more, but I really want to get that Japanese screw punch for these holes. I think that would be a very beneficial tool to have around. And I love tools. My husband loves tools. We're both kind of tool nuts because you could do so much with them, right? So anyway, here's a flip through of where we are now. We have an empty pocket in front that's reinforced with a flap. I might want to figure out how to put a closure on this after all, because it's going to get a little fatter. I did a little extra thing here where I have this little corner punch heart, so I did that on the corners. There's just like it just needs something. These pages just need a little bit something. I want to leave writing spaces, but I want to do some more. Right? Okay. Um, I got these ideas. I'm going to show you the book that gave me the idea for these in part two, and we're going to do more. I definitely want to do more, and that way it's just going to be a little nicer or fancier or whatever you want to think. I think this is really cool what I've got so far. I want to do more. And this is those little stationery set that I got at a yard sale. I remember that yard sale. These are just little things tucked in. Got all these pretty papers. The other video I want to do is I want to talk about color. I think that it would be really, really interesting to share what I know about color in relationship to paper crafting. So I have these ideas to do some other things. So it's just going to take a few more videos to accomplish that. And these are both the same. So same things, but the embellishments, who knows? Let's see what happens. So there's going to be a part two. I hope part one here was inspiring for you. Just paper bags from a dollar type store. And they, you could see different seasons with what the dollar type stores get. And the other important thing is that when that season is over, go to those dollar type stores and the big box stores and you get these super discounts, right? And after all, we need time to produce new things when we're doing paper craft. So be sure to take advantage those sales after the holiday, whatever it happens, or occasion, whatever it happens to be. So the day after February 14th, all the Valentine stuff goes on sale. And it's perfect for Mother's Day, right? Weddings, anniversaries, just because friendship. Um, and yes, of course, your special loved ones. And just as a quick note, how about yourself? How about writing love notes to yourself? What are my dreams and aspirations in my life? Write it down. There's a lot of power in that. And then revisit it and read what you were dreaming about. And then you can revise that. It's a vision board in a different form, really. So all of this could be a love note to yourself, not just somebody else. But get kids involved. I mean, golly, paper bags. You could do folded pages and do kind of a normal sewing kind of thing. And the excess bag could be wrapped around, you could fold it a couple times and have it wrapped around the back of and create a spine. Oh my goodness, there's just so much you can do with it, right? All right, I will leave you with this and then come visit me for part two, okay? All right. Well, thanks for watching and I hope you're inspired. All right, bye for now.